A couple weeks ago, I made a video on why multiplayer video games have been stinky as shit, and today I'm going to be shifting the focus to single player games. Now, there are more exceptions to these games compared to the multiplayer games I mentioned in my other video, cause there have been some really great releases that people have been loving over the past year or two. But there have also been some stinky pieces of horse manure like this, so I feel like there are a good amount of issues to point out in this video. And the first point that I want to bring up is games being unfinished. Now, I did bring this point up in my other video, but I still wanted to mention it here as well. This is the game that made me want to make this and the previous video in the first place. Like, how does the game crash in the menu? There have been many games in the past that were broken as shit, with the biggest one being Cyberpunk. The game was hyped up to be the next coming of Christ, only for it to function as well as the brain of a Neanderthal. I don't need to go over the launch of Cyberpunk, cause it's arguably one of the biggest failures in all of gaming, but the fact that games still continue to launch in an unfinished state is just ridiculous. These publishers know that people would still buy their games, and that's all that matters. Once you buy and download a game digitally, there's no way you can refund it unless the game was Cyberpunk or No Man's Sky, at least on PlayStation. Like, these guys even pulled the game out of the store. When have you ever heard a game be removed from the PS Store like that? That should have been the point where publishers realized that they should start releasing games when they were actually finished, but the trend just kept continuing. It's like the YouTuber apology trend from several years ago. But most recently we got Golem, before that it was Jedi Survivor, and before that it was every single Ubisoft game. These games try and push the limits of their fans to see how far they can go with releasing a game more broken than their previous entry, while also making sure Sony or Microsoft doesn't finger their assholes by enforcing refunds. These publishers set a release date and are too afraid to postpone it either because of investors or pressure from fans. It's not just releasing the game too early that's an issue, but it's also revealing the game too early. Like, I don't know how CDPR thought it was a good idea to release a teaser for Cyberpunk back in 2013 before the release of The Witcher 3, and more importantly, while the game was still in pre-production, as they only started major development in 2016 after The Witcher 3's Blood and Wine DLC. I can go on talking about release dates in another video, but my point is that by revealing a game too early, studios are going to be pressured to release their games before it has enough time to be in an optimal state. And this also brings me to the next point, and that's publishers and fans not caring about their reputation. With more and more games releasing broken as shit and sales still going strong, these companies don't make an effort to release a quality title with minimal issues at launch. They're already making a shit ton with first week sales, so they don't see the point. These studios continue to make the same game over and over again, but it doesn't matter to them because money. And you'll hear fans talk about how publishers like Activision, Ubisoft, and EA make nothing original, yet the biggest game every year are made by the same motherfuckers they wish the worst on. Saying you hate these publishers won't do anything at the end of the day when they continue to make bank. As more gamers buy unfinished and half-assed games on launch, the next game is going to be released with more bugs and shittier content. Ubisoft went from Assassin's Creed Valhalla with bugs like this to this dog shit in Far Cry 6. It's like they hire more people to add more bugs into the game and fire anyone that comes up with good new ideas. Other than Splinter Cell, the only Ubisoft game I've completed was Far Cry 3. And Far Cry 6 is supposedly the same game with a horse, and Gus instead of Nacho. They've made 3 games over the span of 9 years, and that's all the 6th entry had. And on top of that, Ubisoft supposedly purchased a cameo from Giancarlo Esposito instead of actually having him voice act in their studios like they did with Michael Mando. Because he's barely in the game, yet marketed as if he'll give you a happy ending after the credits roll. The quality of these games continue to diminish, bringing down their reputation. But it doesn't affect them, as fans continue to buy and play these games when they release. But with all that being said, there are some companies that actually care, with one of them being Sony. Now, call me a dick rider and everything, but just look at what they released over the past couple of years. Now of these games, I played Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima, and The Last of Us Part 2 around when they came out. And I had a great time playing those games, cause I didn't have to deal with any bullshit. That's why when God of War Ragnarok came out, I actually pre-ordered it. Not just because I liked the original God of War and was looking forward to see what's gonna happen with the sequel, because I knew Sony had a good track record and that their games would be playable on launch. I still haven't touched the game because of this long ass game, and I made a good amount of progress. I'm over here. Let me know in the comments on how far I am, but I knew that Sony wouldn't release bullshit on their launch because they actually value their reputation, which is something that 90% of other publishers don't give a shit about. This is almost equivalent to the number of people that are not subscribed to the channel, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the bell for notifications. Another issue that I want to talk about in this video is the inability to produce anything original and take any risks. Sometimes there would be a game that does so well, and then 50 different publishers would then try and emulate their success by borrowing many elements of it, with The Witcher 3 being one of these games. The game is widely regarded as one of the best games ever made, and then once companies like Ubisoft saw its success, they ended up turning their Assassin's Creed games into Witcher games. After I noticed Odyssey had a similar combat system, map with a million different side missions and point of interests, among the other elements that they took for inspiration, I'm like I couldn't play the game, and I gave up right then and there. Now, this might not really be copying The Witcher 3, but them just turning their game into more of an RPG. But it also exists with other games, mainly with battle royales, when it comes to multiplayer games. But I spoke on this already in that video. But this isn't the only issue when it comes to being original and not taking any risks, because sometimes publishers just make the same game over and over again. When I tried Black Flag, I gave up within the first hour because of how bored I was from the gameplay. The first hour was apparently unskippable cutscenes and tailing missions, so it made sense as to why I gave up on the series and gave another shot with Odyssey, yet still couldn't play it. And nowadays, their games just follow the same formula. Their games nowadays are an open world where they tell you to explore, they tell you to climb some tower to be able to view a part of the map, and then you've got collectibles, side missions, and the same missions in every game. Except there's more of the same shit, since the games keep getting bigger, which leads to my next issue. And that's making games bigger and bigger. Now, what I mean by this is from the length of the game to the scale of the game. Now, if the length of the game is only longer by a couple of hours, then I don't really see an issue, but when you go from this to this, shit's just ridiculous. I didn't finish this game, but there is no way it needed to be 42 hours with 132 hours for completion. The game just ends up being padded, and other games have this issue as well. But what I think is a bigger issue is increasing the size and the scope of games and making everything open world. It is harder to think of linear games from the past couple of years than it is to think of open world games. As more and more open world games come out, it starts feeling like every other open world game out there, with one example being Horizon. Now, I didn't play the sequel, but what I didn't like about the first game is that it didn't feel like anything special. It felt like a game I've played countless times. You got an open world where you talk to the lifeless NPCs, you clear out enemy bases, you investigate with your eagle vision, you craft ammo, you loot bodies, and there's so much shit you do that you've seen in so many games before. Now, I'm not saying that the game couldn't have been open world, but the fact that many games are open world leads to the previous issue I mentioned, where it all feels the same. That's why Naughty Dog games and pseudo-open world games like God of War and Bloodborne are a breath of fresh air to me, because they don't just feel like every other game. It ironically feels more like an adventure game than these open world games, because you just don't know what to expect and what's next. You'd unlock a new realm, and it could either be a misty abandoned workshop, or whatever this is. Or you could be trying to solve a puzzle, and then the next minute, you could be in one of the craziest chase sequences in all of gaming. Now, there are games where you do have a sense of adventure when it comes to exploring the world, but they are very few. But my point is that publishers for whatever reason think that gamers always want an open world game when they don't. They just end up making a game we've played many times already, which ends up being underwhelming. And just to clarify again, I'm not saying open world games are bad, it's just that there are so many of them that feel like games you've already played before. And making these games bigger doesn't really help either. But what I think is the most important issue is the fact that gamers continue to support these companies. Like I said before, they would complain about the huge companies till their dying breath, yet these companies still go crazy when it comes to sales. And the solution is to just not buy their games. Cause as they keep making more games, they realize they can be lazier for the next release since people keep buying whatever. They even prevent companies and channels from releasing reviews prior to launch because they know their games suck or are broken as shit. So once fans get pre-orders, they're less likely to cancel it or refund it if they're able to. So as the consumer, it's important to not give your money to these publishers and to just wait and see what majority of the people say about a game and to understand if the publisher you're purchasing from has a good reputation. If the game is received poorly and if you have other games you want to play that's sitting in your library, then just don't get the game. And if you still want to play the game, get it sometime in the future after you finish some games in your library. You can get it when it goes on sale. You can get it once the game is actually fixed and playable, or when it's added to PS Plus or Games Pass. By doing this, you're not supporting these shitty business practices, and you're saving some money as well. So if the publisher is one you can trust with a good reputation, and if you're looking forward to the game that they're releasing, then go for the pre-order. For me, it's usually Rockstar, Sony, and From Software when it comes to studios I trust with games I look forward to. But if it's a company like CDPR, Ubisoft, or EA, there's no shot on buying their games on launch, or even at all. But that's pretty much it when it comes to the points I wanted to make in this video. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, single player games aren't on much of a decline as multiplayer games. I've only talked about the bigger games that you hear about. There are so many other games from studios and publishers that I've just never played, but continue to do well. I just haven't played those games, and they're just not as big as the publishers I mentioned in this video. For example, there's the entire Yakuza series that continues to do well, Nintendo games, indie games, and other genres of games that I just don't play or haven't gotten into. And there's also games like Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, and the new Zelda game that people have been loving. So there are still a lot of good games out there, and I don't think it's as big of an issue compared to multiplayer games. If you want to see my video on that, then make sure to check it out, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But that's about it for this video. Later.